Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there. How you doing? Hi. Feels like August out there, but in fact it's September 19, and I'll be with you for the next hour. And generally speaking, we talk about stuff that's happened since last we spoke, 24 hours ago. Given that, I guess I'm so glad. I guess the president is going to be speaking to the United Nations General Assembly during this program. So thank God I have given you an excuse and myself an excuse not to even for a minute be tempted to listen. God almighty. So, speaking of the Prez, he was in New York yesterday and holding meetings with other world leaders and was apparently greeted with laughter, which is not the reaction he was looking for, I don't think, with laughter from a number of the leaders who were sitting near him during a meeting with the French president, Macron. And he talked about the fact that Macron had invited him in July to the Bastille Day, their 4th of July, Bastille Day parade. And I remember at the time reading how Trump was blown away by this parade. He loved every 2 hours of it. And that's what he's telling these world leaders yesterday. He says, here's the quote, "I was your guest at Bastille Day. It was one of the greatest parades I've ever seen. It was 2 hours on the button, and it was military might. And I think a tremendous thing for France and the spirit of France. Because of what I witnessed, we may do something like that on July 4th in Washington, down Pennsylvania Avenue." And they laughed. What? I don't know what. I mean, I'm not laughing. We don't do those kinds of parades. My sense of those kinds of parades, I'm a little surprised France does them. My sense of those kinds of parades are commies do those, right? May Day in Moscow, and the Chinese and the North Koreans, they parade their missiles and their military might in this big testosterone-infused display, saying, "Don't mess with me." American parades have never done that. We have floats, marching bands, boring politicians walking by, fire trucks. But we don't do military. The only military stuff we do, which I am absolutely opposed to, is for some reason at football games, right? With those flyovers right at the end of, "and the home of the brave." And that, again, strikes me as off-putting my sense of what America is. We don't do those kinds of parades. You may recall that Trump wanted tanks and military might in his inaugural parade. And he was told by the Pentagon, No. No. And one of the ways they got out of it is by saying that the tanks could like literally tear up the Pennsylvania Avenue, and I don't think that would be wise. So, but I was thinking they apparently don't ruin the French streets. I don't know. So I'm just get ready for next July 4th, assuming he's still in office. You could be seeing a 4th of July parade in Washington, D.C., unlike anything you've ever seen before, with us showing off our weapons of mass destruction. Oh, dear. What a child he is. He likes the generals and their uniforms. Think of that idiot sheriff from Wisconsin, from Milwaukee, who he likes. Have you ever seen him with his regalia of medals, which he got out of Cracker Jack boxes or something? I mean, literally festooned in them. These are guys who like to play dress up, who get off on these childish views of what power is, what masculinity is. They love it. It's how they want to project themselves. And maybe that's why these guys in the room who heard him say that laughed. They laughed. As I said, I am not. I am not laughing. By the way, I'm hoping, I didn't ask anybody, but I'm hoping that tomorrow we might have phones. As hard as this has been on you, I assure you it's been harder on me. There's nothing more ridiculous to me than sitting here yapping at you. I mean, feels uncomfortable a little bit. And I don't know, it's just hard to do. So the other news that really caught my eye, I mean, there's a million things. There's that damn hurricane. Oh, my God. Category 5. It's gone from a 5 to a 4, back to a 5. This is Marie. Apparently decimated, I forget which little island, and is heading toward Puerto Rico. And then it'll move on to the Virgin Islands. I mean, the same. These are people who still don't have electricity or anything from the last onslaught of Irma. Jeez, can keep track of this. It's like after a while, I couldn't remember the name of the last unarmed black man who got killed by cops. I can't remember these hurricane names either now, one after the other. It becomes, And speaking of unarmed black man killed by cops, I finished last night watching that Emmy Award-winning series from, I guess, last year, The People versus O.J. Simpson. And I was reminded of so many things from having lived through it. Not only lived through it, but I was doing a talk radio show during it. So I was immersed. And thank God for telephones, because you guys were too. The constant conversation that we were having and that trial set off about our different perceptions of race based on the color of our skin. For a lot of white people, the O.J. trial was a real wake-up call to the rage of their fellow Americans of a darker complexion. And after the verdict, you might have forgotten, but the president actually went on television. That was Bill Clinton. He went on television to address this startling exoneration of a guy who everybody really thought killed those two people. The evidence was overwhelming. And a jury, mostly black, let him go. And that's when white America, if they were willing, could see how this was just a kind of payback for all those black men who'd gone to jail for crimes they never had done. Sent by all white juries and all white cops who planted evidence, who lied. All of those innocent black men. And it was O.J.'s good fortune to be the black man, guilty as hell, who got to walk because black jurors saw an opportunity to make a statement of their own. And you would think that we, after that, and I do remember because we did have a national conversation on race in America. And that's what Bill Clinton told us then. We need to talk. Because quite clearly you can see there are black people celebrating in the streets and white people standing around with their mouths agape. Maybe this is an opportunity to talk to each other. Of course, Rodney King had happened before O.J. And when white America saw that, I'm fine. When white America saw what that brutality visited by white cops on a black man who was no threat to them. It was an opportunity for America to have a conversation on race and police brutality against black men. I had a talk show then. I remember we had a conversation. And then we forgot and moved on. And then O.J. and we had a conversation. And we moved on. And now, as I said, I can't even remember the names of all the black. Who's the black unarmed man du jour who's been killed by police? And we're having a conversation. Not. And then we elected a black guy. Not only a black guy, but his name was un-American. Barack Obama? What kind of a name is that? Our presidents have names like John. Barack Obama. And we were told, what an amazing nation are we. How free of racism we must be. Post-racial. That was a term that came up, right? We done it. We did it. America finally arrived. We are free of whatever guilt or sins we might have had. Look what we did. We elected this black guy with a funny name president. Then we re-elected him. Ha! And you see what that begot. This erudite, beautiful black man who was our president. This honorable, eloquent, honorable, did I say that? Honorable man who was our president was replaced by a buffoon, a television reality star, a grifter in real estate, a man with no principles, no sense even of what honor is, no curiosity, no intellect, nothing. Just a bowl of flesh whose one purpose was self-aggrandizement. But he had a great qualification. He was white. Well, maybe orange, but he was not black. He was not black. And 8 years of this Barack Obama thing begot Donald Trump, a national disgrace, a national embarrassment, a national disaster. And let us not forget, a man who came into the political realm trying to prove that that black man with the funny, suspicious name in the White House wasn't really an American. The fact that we went from Barack Obama to Donald Trump, I think, says it all. Says it all about the fact that we have not grown a bit. Excuse me. We have these damn conversations about race, and we move not one whit forward. There are way too many. We're learning, right? We're learning. As I said yesterday, Trump has flushed these people out. If ever white folks were inclined to sort of, I know there's some racism, but it's not bad. We've made such incredible progress. Yeah, we have, right, I know. We don't openly lynch you now. We do even let you become the president for a while. We will allow this and that, but my God, white America, if they can't see now, not only the level of absolute race hate that exists among whites in this country, you have to be blind, willfully blind. Oh, but they're racist too. They hate us. Yeah, as I said yesterday, if I were black, I'd hate you too. Wouldn't you hate somebody who had for hundreds of years brutalized you, brutalized your family, got rich off of your labor? Jesus Christ. So anyway, if I hear anybody say it's time to have a conversation about race, I am going to scream because we are not up to it. I was thinking this last night. We have failed. Now, I'm including me, everybody else. I'm including all of us. We have failed in our national duty to come to real terms with our past. And it is not as though other nations with horror in their histories have not done so before us. A lot of nations do not. They never reckon. They never reckon with it. They maybe pretend they have, and then they move on. I can start naming names if you want, but we're at the top of the list. And then there are nations that do things that I cannot imagine us doing. South Africa. But see, they had leadership, incredible leadership in one man. Now he's gone, and I don't know. It's not happening there anymore either. The German people, they've done some serious reckoning with their past. We have not. We have not. It does not speak well of us. And I don't think we're capable of having such a conversation anymore now, especially too late. We had our chance, and here's why. Because of technology. We're doomed now. Because national conversation now happens on our phones, on our internet, and it is, you know what it is. We can't all get together anymore. We're off in our little tribes and bubbles. I don't see it happening. I'm sorry, I'm being depressing. Let's not be depressing. Let's do, to lift our spirits, the obituary of the day. I know that seems improper, but Stanislav Petrov.
Good American name.
Oh, Charlie's the sitting here, and he said, "Good American." So you don't know that name.
No, I don't.
No, it sounds suspiciously Russian, and I think it is Stanislav Petrov. Yeah, it is. I tell you where he was born, but you got to figure somewhere in the Soviet Union. Anyway, he's dead. And you don't know him, and I don't know him, and I read this, and I thought, geez, I should know this guy. Because I don't know where you are. I'm going to give you a date. September 26th, 1983. I'll let you sort of get your head around that. 1983, imagine yourself somewhere. That could well have been the day. Your last day on Earth. My last day. Charlie's last day. All of us. It could have been the end. One man saved us. Saved everybody. His name was Stanislav Petrov. Why don't we know this story? Here's what's happening. Stanislav was a 44-year-old lieutenant colonel in the Soviet Air Defense Forces. And he was a guy who was in charge of sitting in the secret command center outside Moscow, where the Soviet military monitored its early warning system of satellites over the United States. You know, we got satellites, they got satellites. We're watching them, they're watching us. We have these secret places with big screens, and we're always watching. And that day, when Stanislav Petrov was in charge, early in the morning, September 26th, that's almost like, we're September what? Yeah, Okay. The alarms went off. Alarms started going off. That's not what you want to hear. Their computers were warning that the U.S. had launched 5 Minutemen intercontinental ballistic missiles and Petrov says it had to be maybe 15 seconds. We all just stood there in disbelief. The alarm sounded. This was during one of the tensest periods of the Cold War, okay? Just 3 weeks before these alarms went off in Moscow, the Soviets, you might recall this, had shot down a Korean commercial airliner, a KAL flight, that was carrying 269 people. It had inadvertently ventured into Soviet airspace. They, I don't know what, freaked and shot down this plane of civilians, including a United States congressman from Georgia. That was 3 weeks earlier. President Ronald Reagan could have called that an act of war, I guess. What he did was he rejected any calls for freezing the arms race, which had been being talked about. And he declared, this is when he said it, he declared the Soviet Union was an evil empire. The Soviet leader at the time was a guy named Yuri Andropov. He was obsessed with fears of an American attack. So this is the context. And here is a 44-year-old Stanislav Petrov sitting here, and the alarms are going off, and his information is telling him that the U.S. has launched 5 Minutemen ICBMs coming at them. Now, you got to act fast. Unbelievably, this guy did what I don't think many people would have done. He trusted his gut. He thought, I don't believe this. I don't believe the U.S. would have done this. Something's wrong. Because if the U.S. was going to, out of the blue, attack us, there'd be a hell of a lot more than 5 Minutemen missiles coming our way. It would be an overwhelming onslaught. He was quoted later as saying, when people start a war, they don't start it with only 5 missiles. So I thought, he said, no, this is a mistake. Stop and think. A different person in that position, going by the book, pow. And they would have sent their missiles. We, then seeing their missiles coming, would have sent our missiles, and you would have had a nuclear conflagration. September 28th, 1983. Historians who have since looked at this episode say there is little doubt that this one man and his ability to stay calm and to analyze it and to overrule the computers, that he averted extraordinary catastrophe. At first, once the Soviet leadership found out about this, they praised him. They thanked him. Good job. But in an investigation that followed, he was asked why had he failed to record everything that had happened in his logbook. There were certain things that were missing. And he said, because I had a phone in one hand and I had the intercom in my other hand and I didn't have a third hand. They didn't like that. He received a reprimand. Now, what the hell had happened? The Soviets believed that the false alarm of the U.S. having launched 5-minute missiles was apparently set off when their satellite mistook the sun's reflection off the top of some clouds for a missile launch. The computer program that was supposed to filter out such incorrect information was rewritten. And Petrov said that their system, had been rushed into service in response to the U.S.'s introduction of a similar system. And he said, I knew it was not 100%. And he also said, we are wiser than the computer. We created them. God bless them. Stanislav Petrov, we could all owe our lives to him. He faded into obscurity. Nobody ever knew of him. That's why you didn't know of him. I didn't know of him. At one point, he was reduced to growing potatoes to feed himself. But then some historians dredged it up in 1998, and he was given credit for averting a nuclear Armageddon. And this would be about 1998. And you may vaguely be recalling, I seem to remember somebody saying that we were, as I am, but I still don't remember ever hearing his name. And it came to light because a big shot Russian military guy, a general, a commander of Soviet missile defense, had written a book. And in the book, he had referred to this incident. So at least in his life, Stanislav Petrov did get credit. He was awarded a Dresden Peace Prize. He was the subject of a documentary called The Man Who Saved the World. And he also received an award in the United States in 2006 from the Association of World Citizens. He died in May, but nobody knew about it. He lived alone on a pension, and finally his death was confirmed a few days ago. Stanislav Petrov, 44 years old. God bless him. Saved us. Wow. See? Did I cheer you up with an obit or not? Huh? It's not easy. Not everybody can cheer you up with an obit. I aim to please. Okay, to you, in lieu of a phone. Hi, Lynn. I am listening while grocery shopping. Where the hell are you? I see you're grocery shopping. Those don't look like groceries. Showing me a picture of following. Here's a photo from. My God, that doesn't even look like any store I've ever seen. Where are you, Bree? Obviously somewhere in the Arab world because I see Arab writing, and you're at Farnan Muslims? What? Let me know. Wow, is that a weird... that's a grocery store? It's weird. I wish I could show you. It doesn't look like our... I can't figure it out. It doesn't look like our grocery stores. Which reminds me, I have told you this, of going to a Giant Eagle with a Russian man who... this was right after this. It would have been right after this. Because Andropov was gone, and he was replaced by a guy named Gorbachev. And Gorbachev, as you may recall, instituted reforms. There was one called Perestroika. And for the first time, Soviet citizens were allowed to leave their country and travel. And so as a TV reporter, I went to cover the reunion of this man with his sister who lived in Penn Hills. They had not seen each other since World War II. She somehow had gotten out. He was there. There had been, sporadic contact between them. And because of Perestroika, he came to the United States. I met him there. I decided to show him around a little bit. So the photographer and I took him over to a Giant Eagle that was there in Penn Hills. I've never been the same since that visit. It changed me. I think it changed him too. To accompany this man from our enemy into a normal grocery store. This was not a big, this was before like the huge, humongous Giant Eagles we have now, Market District and all that stuff. We walked into the grocery store, and I was watching him because I was a reporter, and I'm looking at his reaction. And to say his eyes didn't grow large. He looked stunned. He really looked stunned. And he walked slowly, looking around like he was in some kind of a... must have been the way Alice looked when she went down the rabbit hole. I remember we got down one aisle, turned into the next, and that's when he lost it. I mean, he just... I think it was I'm remembering it as a cereal aisle. I don't know. He looked. He turned to me and he said, "What do you need? What do you need this for?" He was astonished by the sheer immensity of choice of... Anyway, this is one of those moments where you see through someone else's eyes. And to this day, I can't go down a cereal aisle without remembering him, without looking as I walk and walk and walk past a million different crazy things. I mean, this was a guy who had not lived in had never been in a capitalist country. This was him seeing capitalism This was him seeing the marketplace. And he clearly looked at it as like insane. Now, at the time in the Soviet Union, there were lines you stood in to get bread. They were having real troubles. Empty shelves in supermarkets. Maybe fresh meat once a week. So when he saw this, saw the vegetables, saw the fruit, saw the meat, saw all these boxes of this and that, aisle after aisle after aisle, and we walk into a grocery, we don't think for a second that it's odd or amazing or pick your adjective. I would say it's definitely overdone. It's wretched excess, I believe. That's our reality. Wretched excess. While the reality in his world was wretched poverty, lack of any of this stuff. I still have two things he gave me. I have a carton of cigarettes. Not a carton, a pack. Looks like Marlboros, but it's not. And a Lenin pin. It's a little red pin with Lenin's head in gold. I'm saying opportunities to see through other people's eyes who come from a different reality. It is real where he's coming from, and it's real where I'm sitting. And he found our reality, I think, repulsive. I'm thinking he'd be impressed. It didn't impress him at all. It depressed him. I mean, you could say, oh, he was just envious. I don't know. But it put into a different kind of, it just made things more interesting than my usual unthinking acceptance of everything I see around me as, yeah, this is the way it is. This is the way we do it. And unfortunately, that is way too much the case in America by too many Americans who never go anywhere, don't know anything, don't have any sense that our way of life is not the only way. What set me off is this picture that Bree sent me saying, I'm listening while grocery shopping, and I don't even recognize this as a grocery store. Everything's like it's all packaged in weird ways in strange compartments. I don't get it. Well, there you have it. Anyway. Okay, I'm continuing. Little Tony writes, Lynn, did you see Rob Rogers' editorial cartoon today? Yeah. Sean Spicer. It was about Sean Spicer. And I know I agreed with it, but I can't quite remember it. But I did agree with it. It was about normalizing Sean Spicer, right? Yeah. Well, what it tells you is that when this administration does eventually go into the realm of history, a lot of the people who served in it, they aren't going to be marched through the streets and taunted. They're going to be signed up by CNN and Harvard and have walk-ons at award shows, and they're going to be normalized. Maybe when Paul Manafort gets out of prison, he'll get a talk show like Ollie North, right? Or Gordon Liddy. That's what we do in this country. because we have no rules of honor that would keep us from elevating people that have abused our trust or abused their power. We live in a culture in which everything is celebrity and money. So if you become a celebrity, even because you sold out your own country or you helped the Russians hack our election, well, then you're a celebrity. Yeah, you might be a criminal, but then you're a celebrity. And this is the greatest thing that one can be. We worship such false gods in this land. It's really repulsive. We worship fame and money. Fame and money. I mean, Donald Trump. In that regard, he is the perfect face of America. Come to think of it, he is the perfect president. If a president is an embodiment of our nation. Oh dear. Let's what else? I'm looking. Scott writes about what I was talking about yesterday about overweight. He says, "Who do you think you are, Twiggy?" Well, definitely not. Back in the day, you are not overweight. Yes, I am. Hello? My doctor would disagree. I am overweight. I'm approaching obesity, if not, whatever their cutoff is. My BMI is way, way too high. You are not 1 pound under being obese. I disagree. What you see, I don't know. Yeah, and I even saw you expose your ass last week. That's right. You know, when I was, Charlie, when I lost the audio, I got up and was screaming out the door, and somebody sent me a screenshot. The screenshot was of my ass.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. I appreciate this, Sir Speedy. Most of the exercising health nuts would still be skinny if they didn't exercise. You don't allow authority figures to tell you what to say, so why allow them to tell you what to look like? It's radio, not reality TV. You're wonderful. We love you, like you are. Well, thank you very much. I would be more comfortable if I shed 20 pounds. Charlie over here has shed, what are you up to now? 60.
Since January.
He has lost 60 pounds since January, so he's my hero. I know you can, Jesus. No, what motivating him is what would motivate me. It's not to reach some kind of ideal so people whistle at us on the street. It's for our health.
Live longer, yeah.
It's to live longer. No, I am overweight. I've been up and down all my life. I've been super skinny, svelte. I've been heavier than I am now, but not by much. Barbara writes, hi, Trump's now doing his thing. He just read his teleprompter to say, oh God, that we will be spending $700 billion, on military and defense. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, okay. So, there. I don't think I'd said it yet today. I have gotten pretty good at not saying so as much. I've been trying. Okay, so the really sort of startling news out today is that, to me, is that Donald Trump Jr. has given up his Secret Service protection. He apparently did it last week. I guess what reporters don't yet know is, did he keep it for his kids and his wife? It's just he doesn't want. He says he wants his privacy back. I mean, I'm sure it's a pain. Boy, I bet he's regretting. He is regretting his father's ambition. Because it's ruining his life. He could go to jail. He ain't having fun anymore. He's got to be testifying before scary people. Congress, Mueller, investigators, people asking him, and his story keeps changing. That's never good. You bet he wants privacy. What? When he's calling his Russian contact, he wants a Secret Service guy standing there? I don't think so. But it's startling that he would do that because he is vulnerable. I mean, without that protection, I'm sorry. He is the president of the United States' son, and, you know, you can pluck him up and hold him for ransom and do all kinds of things. I'd be surprised. And his kids are vulnerable in that regard. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, but he did. He makes a lot of wrong choices. And this is another one. He just makes a lot of wrong choices. Okay, so the big story really is, and I got to tell you this, and I'm worried, is the latest attempt to repeal Obamacare. This has a shot, guys. Hello? They need like 1 vote or 2 votes. If McCain saved it last time, right? It took one. We're 1 vote away. McCain has not said how he'll vote. And I'm not certain that some of these other senators who didn't sign on last time. But this Graham-Cassidy bill, which is the latest, by the way, they are going to vote on this, as usual, with no debate, with no CBO score. So people will be voting on it with no understanding whatsoever of the impact of it, which is what the CBO would do. Now, it seems extraordinary that the Republican Party would yank health care away from millions of people, but they're like 1 vote away from doing just that. This is the Senate. The House, they'll sign on, Trump will sign it, and a bunch of people who have insurance through the Affordable Care Act, I'm sure they ease it out maybe, I don't know. So maybe if you're not paying attention, you don't quite understand when your insurance goes. They're saying that one of the things that helped last time was the extraordinary pressure put on McCain and others. Of course, our 2 senators cancel each other's votes out. And I don't think they're getting the calls that they did. If you want to do something today that is something good to do, where you'll be moving things in a proper direction, call John McCain, call every senator you can think of if you want, but I'd call McCain and tell him, you were an honorable man just weeks ago. This bill is in no real way different. Please, don't. I mean, this would be a true tragedy for the country. The Republicans are nothing if not tenacious. Democrats are anything but tenacious. we get a win and we all go home. Republicans get a win and they immediately look for another fight. They work harder. Oh, geez. Okay, so I think that's it. No, it's not. Oh, God. How much time do I have here? I've got like 4 minutes. Okay. So, Aaron, one of our listeners, is trying to get me to be more accepting of Alexa and Siri and all these other women, disembodied women who are now living in our homes. And he's doing a good job because he has said the Alexa reminds his mom to take her meds. I mean, you can just please remind my mother to, and it's done. And he said the other day he wanted to be reminded of something. I don't know what it was. But you know how you say to somebody, oh, listen, remind me to do. Well, that person might not. I mean, that's bullshit. But if you say, hey, Alexa, remind me tomorrow morning to do this, it will be done. So that strikes me as, yeah, I can see where that would be helpful. So, all right, Aaron, all right, but I'm not going to do it yet. I just don't like it. An amazing editorial in the Washington Post today that's just hard to take, but it's about the fact that in this country, every day, 23 children are killed in America by a bullet. 23 children by a bullet. Let's see. That is a death toll that exceeds the entire number of military fatalities by American military fatalities in Afghanistan in the last 10 years. Okay? Soldiers sign up to go into danger. 2-year-olds don't. 8-year-olds don't. More of them are dying than soldiers. And we don't do shit. It's the third leading cause of death among children. And they talk to some ER docs who see these kids come in. And how we can't even, talk about having a conversation. This is another conversation we can't have. We're incapable of it. Due in large measure, of course, to the National Gun Lobby, the NRA, which absolutely does not allow us to debate, does not allow us to enact just sensible protections of firearms that would save lives. And all these people in Congress, Republican and Democrat alike, who comply with the NRA. Oh, which is now trying to get silencers. There's a bill now you'll be able to get silencers. So the next time you do a mass shooting, it can be quietly done. So the last paragraph of their editorial is this. The surgeon who successfully operated on this one child they're talking about has treated at least 30 children struck by gunfire in his career. His first night as a neurosurgery intern saw the case of a 17-year-old who had been shot clean through the back of the head. There's nothing we can do, the doctor recalls telling the boy's mother. Congress, the Washington Post says, doesn't have that excuse. There is something they can do to save the next child's life. They're just refusing to do it. Instead, they're busy trying to make sure that people will be able to have silencers. We worship the wrong gods. I'm just saying. Okie doke, guys. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I'll see you tomorrow, and who knows, maybe we might have phones. I don't know. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.